All right, episode 106 today, we're joined by Cari Briner, and she's going to join us to talk about some work-life balance. We all need that help. We're going to get started right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
All right, episode 106 today. I'm excited about today's show. We have Cari Briner on, and she's going to be talking to us about how we can have some work-life balance and increase our business and personal well-being throughout 2021. Today's show is brought to you by Mortgage Mike, Michael DeBacker, mortgagemikeoftexas.com. So if you are a real estate agent in Texas, or if you have clients relocating to Texas and you want to get them over to a good lending institution, a good loan officer,
that's actually a good thing we never talk about, right? Local lenders. We're a big relocation hub. If you're referring somebody to Texas, make sure they work with a Texas lender
all day long. mortgagemikeoftexas.com. And if you have yet to do so, go over to our Facebook group, the only real estate group worth being a part of. Join up there. Great information, great stuff being shared in there. And then go over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, and let's get started.
Let's get started. Cari, add it to the stream. What's going on? How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you guys?
I'm great. I feel like we never talk anymore.
I know. Well, we get to today.
We do today.
I know.
Cari's actually
Thanks for having me.
Cari's actually responsible for really the startup of her group DFW.
It's true.
She was the director of expansion for HERG when we started this whole thing.
Yeah.
And Chip Harris, who was on a line at Mega Relief handing out paper towels with Teresa Flood, was like, hey, your director of expansion might want to talk to me in Dallas. And then I somehow got wiggled in the conversation. And then 4 months later, I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And now here we are.
You talked to me and you didn't know what happened.
Yeah, now 4 years later, here we are. So she's been a part of my life for a while.
100%.
Wait, I like in the start of even like this podcast then, like if I really go.
Oh, yes.
For sure.
All of this is post her.
You were the first person that I ever spoke to in the organization. So you're responsible for Matt and I becoming business partners. Like, you have a deep effect on my life in a way that I maybe don't give you enough appreciation for. So thank you.
So Cari,
I'm proud when I see what you guys are doing. I have to say that. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Real quick, just explain to us a little of your bio, right? I have in here, you were the director of expansion for a top real estate expansion group, and you led and grew that to over $444 million in sales. But, tell us a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah. So I started as a solo agent in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I did that at age 22. Realized this year that's half my life because I'm 44. That's awesome. And so of half my life, I've been in the real estate industry. I loved real estate, sold, became a top producing agent, raised 2 little boys in the time. But what we're going to talk about today is really my passion, which is figuring out how to integrate work and life, particularly when you're an entrepreneur, because I actually did a really bad job of that for about 10 years. A lot of personal things didn't go well. And I ended up making a big transformation and choosing a different way. However, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that don't know how to do this either. And it's become a big passion because really, it changed my entire life. And so I sold real estate. Then I ran a large brokerage. We actually became the #1 brokerage in the state of Minnesota. I did that for 5 years. And that's actually where I met Adam Hergenrother, who was my business partner in expansion. And then I helped him grow that business. We were just a couple locations doing a modest amount of real estate. Today, you guys are crushing it. I handed over the reins at the end of last year because he and I had the opportunity to go into partnership to do something that I really believed was kind of my calling, which is to kind of pay it forward, share my story, and help entrepreneurs across the country. So we now are a national coaching organization, completely agnostic, not part of the, the network of companies, but on our own as an individual company. We have coaches from all organizations, from all brokerages. We're starting to coach people outside of the real estate industry, but more importantly, it's just really a holistic look at business and life. And I think that really ties into well what we're going to talk about today. But, the role as director of expansion was just awesome for me. I was blessed because I learned a lot. I had a lot of leadership growth, but I got to meet really amazing people across the country, get into relationship. And today I get to see them coming into their own and growing in their own ways and helping other people like you guys are in your world. I mean, it's just really awesome. So for that period of time, I had a great opportunity, and I'm grateful that it helped other people too. So
I really like that, and I would say that's part of one of the main reasons why my partnership with everybody's lasted for so long is I really do like the spiritual, relational aspect of the company that we've all been blessed to work for. But I'm also really interested in today's topic of conversation because my work-life balance sucks right now, right? Like even saying all that and as great as the team's doing and all of those types of things, I've literally it's 3:00 Central Time and I've done nothing today that moved my business forward because I just have no balance and real clue on which direction to go. So I'm really excited about the topic today because I'm probably going to get a lot of stuff I need to do as well. So,
so let's dive into that a little bit. I mean, everyone wants that coveted work-life balance, right? They want that, they want to have a consistently growing business. And at the same time, they got into this probably for that time freedom. So what do you see the biggest, the biggest gaps or the biggest pitfalls that most new real estate agents and even veteran agents make today?
Yeah, I think it doesn't even matter what industry you're in, how long you've been in the industry. I think something fundamentally shifts when you become a business owner. Even if you're a business owner inside another organization, or you have a partner, or you're on a team, you still are your own business owner. You still are an entrepreneur. And, there's fundamentally a shift in the mindset when you know that you don't make a paycheck unless you go do something to move the needle forward. And I think that we get into the entrepreneurial space. I know I did. And I know many people do, in all of the hundreds, maybe thousands of conversations with entrepreneurs I've had. They get in it for the freedom. Nick, you said it exactly right. They want the freedom. And I believe it's one of the last things they actually figure out how to get. In fact, it's what they think they're going to get right away. And then it's like the hardest thing to achieve. And so how do you achieve freedom, which, by the way, is the name of our coaching company that keeps it front of my mind. How do I continue to achieve freedom? First of all, what does freedom mean to me? We have to all identify that. But secondly, we have to realize that the only reason we don't truly achieve that is because of challenges in our mindset. We have problems making the right choices. We have problems differentiating the correct priorities. We have problems, taking control of our mind. We have problems having the strength in our mindset or the emotional fitness to do the things. We have challenges mastering the mundane, boring things that actually are the things that give us the freedom. And we have challenges not being over-identified with work. And as entrepreneurs, the work we do becomes very personal to us. And it does because we start to get confused between I'm me and this is my business. No, I'm my business. My business is me. And people get very, very over-identified with it simply because they take on this weight of responsibility, which is I am the business, I am the entrepreneur. If I don't succeed, the business doesn't. And although that's true, that still doesn't mean you are the business. So what happens is you will not take risks that you need to take. You won't make decisions you need to make because it becomes far too personal. And when you don't make the right choices and you don't do the right things, and you don't take the appropriate calculated risks, you don't go get the leverage you know you need, and you don't figure out how to manage your mind, then you don't have freedom. And in fact, worse than that, it usually goes the opposite direction, which is like everything is out of whack and then there's no balance at all.
That's what I was going to say. You hit on a couple of things there that I fell victim to. One, thinking that the time freedom was something that I was afforded just by signing up to be a real estate agent and a business owner, which obviously it's the exact opposite. And then
almost just choked him a drink there,
right? and then not even the net negative of just having freedom. It's the exact opposite of it. By not having that mindset and that freedom of mindset, whatever, I'm actually going the other direction. I'm feeling more anxiety. I'm feeling more pressure. More things are falling through the cracks. Like more negative things are happening because I can't get in that free headspace. And I'll say that's something that, if you follow me on social media, it probably looks like I have a ton of work-life balance. The reality is it's always one way or the other, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm either crushing it at work or I'm crushing. What's the line from The Devil Wears Prada? The guy says or whatever, something about when your personal life's great, your work life sucks. And vice versa. Yeah. I ride that roller coaster
Brian's
a lot too.
Show.
It is. Brian loves it.
You can judge me.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something to that, though. I think there's something to that because I don't like the word balance, because I think what that does is that gives us an expectation that we're actually going to live a balanced life. And I don't think that that's a real expectation. Although also, by the way, having unrealistic expectations or just expectations that don't serve you actually create a lot of anxiety and suffering in you that are unnecessary. So like 95% of the suffering we have as human beings are created by our own
expectations.
Selves. Yeah. Expectations that shouldn't even be put out there. So first of all, if you think you should have a balanced life, just take that out of your mind. You aren't going to have it. Forget about it. That being said, what I will tell you is I didn't have a balanced life those 10 years I sold real estate. It wasn't because I didn't have a balanced life that I had problems personally. It was because I chose, whether it was subconscious or conscious, and I think this is something that we can get into because that happens often, but I chose to, like, it's a pendulum that swings. And so the idea is that it will swing back and forth between, let's just call it personal, and personal has a bunch of things inside of it. It's not just one thing, but personal and business, right? So this pendulum swings back and forth. And the problem is that my pendulum was stuck for like 10 years. And I laugh about it now, but it's not funny, but it was stuck, for 10 years in business, like over here. And then this stuff over here was like completely not being focused on at all. So what I like to tell people is, although it might get stuck for a period of time because you have to focus on something business related here, it's important, it's necessary. Yes, you have to, have money to feed your family. That's okay, so long as it doesn't stay there too long. And then you have to make sure that it swings back and that you touch base here in these other personal places. And then maybe your child needs you and it's stuck here for a little bit. And does business then need to take the wayside for a little bit? Yeah, but it can't take the wayside for too long because that's the problem. And so I think if we start accepting that we have a pendulum that swings, then we can start giving ourselves some more grace, because what happens is you get yourself into more of a mental, cycle. That becomes a bigger thing than really what your reality is. Like Matt, you're saying right now, it gets like worse. Well, that's because you think like you're already now beating yourself up about that. It's out of control. And then your mind overtakes and then you think things and then that makes it worse. Instead of just accepting what it is, being aware of it, letting it go as it may, and not allowing your mind to complicate it more than it is, because that's really where the suffering comes in.
Yeah, and I'm so susceptible to that line of thinking anyways, just in my natural state, that I'm sitting next to two guys who typically, when faced with adversity, they run at it, right? They don't realize that, but they do. I tend to be the guy who's like, hey, I'm good with really not working out the same way, right? So and it's something that's just not in my natural personality. I tend to want to retreat when things get super hard. So again, when work and life pile up and I'm doing a poor job of identifying what balance is, even, right? Like even you just saying that it's not a 50-50 thing. That's not a huge mindset shift for me, but I was so stuck in that first layer of thought of how do I work when I'm at work and how am I at home when I'm at home, right? That may not even be the right question to ask. And that's usually my problem, is I'm just usually asking the wrong damn question.
Well, and I think, I really want to get Cari's advice on this. Is my personal perspective is, look, I'm bringing this back to mindset, like we always do, right? If you keep your mindset right,
this one's in the title. They knew before they.
Yeah. You guys don't get a pass here. You knew we were talking about this.
You showed up for this.
Yeah, exactly, right. If you have the right mindset around, what you're doing on a day in and day out to see your vision through, and you have a vision, then you're 100% right. The work-life balance thing, if you're thinking it's going to be 50-50, is crazy. What I think a lot of people run into is they maybe don't have a clear vision. They don't have that thing. They don't have that ultimate future that they're trying to chase, or build that life by design that they're trying to build. And so what they see is that when that business side or that work side creeps into the life thing, they see it as a burden. Whereas, like, we are all four shining examples of how hard this industry can be, and overcoming a lot of crap. You got a pizza boy and two bartenders, and whatever you did before you were 22, who have all figured it out a little bit, right? And it obviously wasn't easy. But nowadays, the work-life balance is it doesn't feel like a burden, I don't think, to any of us, because I kind of like sitting on patios in New York, kind of being wine drunk with Matt and still solving problems at work. You know what I mean? Because we love this. We love what we do. It wasn't always like that, right? It wasn't always a lot of fun to do this, but we always had a vision of where this was going to go. And so when you talk about the work-life balance thing, like, there's part of me that feels like one of two things is happening. You feel like you don't have a work-life balance. Either you haven't figured out what the vision is for what you're working toward, meaning like every time work creeps into life, you're going to see it as a burden because you don't already see the outcome in the future, or you're not leveraged where you need to be leveraged, and you're working on the things that really don't move your business forward. You're just doing task-oriented stuff, which is a big problem in and of itself. But if you get rid of those two things, right, I don't have a work-life balance problem because I love what I do for a living all day, every day. I'll be 100% bare my soul a little bit. Anytime my wife and I are in disagreement, if I was ever going to leave the house, it wouldn't be like, I'm going to the bar. But I'd be like, I'm going to the office. Yeah, I'm going to go solve some more problems, right? Like, I love it here. I love what we do. You know, it wasn't always that way, but I always had the idea of where we were going. And so it made the work-life balance a lot easier. And I feel like that can be a big thing for a lot of people, is they maybe don't have one of those two things figured out.
Yeah. You have to start with the end in mind in anything that you do. And I didn't at 22 because I didn't even have life experience, much less like, you know, honestly, you asked what I did. I was in college, so you can figure out what I was doing. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think why I didn't know is because like I just was thrown into it, and then I became successful. And then all of a sudden I was a mom and a wife, and I had no idea what I was doing in life, much less figuring out a balance between it. And that really created an interesting dynamic. But what I learned from that is if you don't start with the end in mind. And so what I want to impose on people watching, whether you just started in real estate or you've been in it for a long time, you can always start with a new end in mind, and you can restart anything that you want. 100%. Is that you need to start your business and design it around your desired life, not the other way around. Because if you do it the other way around, you'll end up hating both. Trust me, I've been there. When you start with the business around the life, then what you can do is you can go to business to grow yourself personally, and you do it intentionally with an end in mind that is like, I'm not going to spend all the time doing these things that don't move the needle forward. Like, I've already made that decision, so I'm not going to do that. If you don't make a decision, you just start doing things you don't even know you shouldn't be doing. And it's harder to reverse that. And you get yourself in a place where you go, crap, what am I doing now?
Well, we need to throw up on the screen. You're doing things you don't even know you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, right.
That's a really good one.
But and I mean, the hardest part when I hear you say that, Cari, is as a newer agent, sometimes even a seasoned agent that feels lost, is trying to visualize what I think I want being, because I'm so blurred in my vision right now that I can't even think about 7 days from tomorrow. Right. Yeah. So how does someone start getting that clear vision? Because I will tell you, when you're lost like that, that is the hardest part to try to get re-engaged.
It is. So I can tell you what I did, because I was very lost at the end of the 10 years, making a lot of money, super miserable, getting a divorce, feeling like a horrible parent, not being at my healthiest mentally or physically. And so I had to restart it, and I didn't leave the industry, and I stuck with it, and I shifted some things. But what it really was I just honestly had to do a couple things. I had to become super self-aware. So for me, I think anybody who's lost in the fog and they're just like overwhelmed and they're just doing activities and they can't see the future, it just is a process. Number one, let's get back to who you are as a human being, because we focus on what we do every day. We focus on what we should be doing and what we do. And instead of focusing who we are and how we're being, but we're human beings. And that's the place we first have to start. And I'm telling you, it sounds really strange, but it's true, because we will start putting an emphasis on what we do, the roles we play, or we'll start putting an emphasis on who we are. And when we get connected to who we are, it can be a lot easier to see where we want to go. So the first thing that I did is I just had to be really painfully honest with myself and self-aware about, okay, well, how was I being? What was I doing? How did I get so lost? How do I kind of almost find myself again? And it's painful work, because it's really embarrassing. And it's like, how did I not know that? And this is horrible. And how did I end up here? And this can be an extreme example, but like, if you're in a miserable place in your business right now, it's not about what you're doing. It's not about real estate. In fact, I blamed real estate for all of those things until my coach said to me, it has nothing to do with what you're doing. You can be doing anything and you'd still be in the same spot. Like, stop blaming real estate. So there are a lot of people that come to me and go, this is how I feel. That's okay. Take a deep breath. It's not about what you're doing. It's not even how many hours you're working. It's about what part of you is doing it. And it's that you can't, to your point, see past like just the day-to-day of the hustle and bustle, and you're not even knowing, like, what is it getting me? Am I winning? Is this bringing me joy? How is this impacting my life? Because you're too busy in the moment of the doing. So it's about some personal work. I think people have to realize, cool thing about real estate and entrepreneurship in general is you get to choose your schedule. You get to choose your destiny. You get to choose the things. If you're not careful, you can choose the wrong things. But if you're intentional, you can literally have the best life and the best business that you want. And so what I say is you need to start realizing that you do have the choices, get really self-aware about the choices you've been making. And then hopefully you have a friend or a confidant, maybe you pick a coach, it doesn't matter, someone that you can talk with about this, because the only way you can figure it out is by getting your thoughts out of your mind and getting them out on paper or verbally to somebody. Stop absorbing your thoughts and start observing them. 90% of the time we keep everything that's going on in our head here because we don't want to tell anybody because it's crazy talk and we know it is. And yet if we can't get it out, it sounds logical when it's in here. Write it on paper and see how crazy it really sounds. It sounds even crazier. Trust me, I do this often, but that's cool because then we can go, wait, why do I believe my thoughts? Why am I believing my thinking here? It's just a thing. It's not real. And now I get to have some awareness without judgment, and then I can make a different decision. So people just have to start being aware, stop living subconscious lives and start being more conscious, taking those thoughts called things out of their head, putting them on paper, and then making one small decision different today than they did yesterday. It doesn't have to be as overwhelming as it sounds. People try to make, these huge changes, and it's not realistic. But I can tell you that you hear this all the time. The 1% change every day is totally realistic. And it's usually how we can start to unravel what maybe has come to our lives or our businesses, and how we can start making some different choices on how we want to live and how we want to work.
Isn't it interesting how, like, Brian and I had this conversation this morning about a problem that we're dealing with inside the business, that the easiest solutions sometimes just come from talking to another person, right? Continuing to talk to people, and then all of a sudden they give you this idea and you're like, I have tried 10 other things, and that's obviously the most logical solution.
Should have said that at the beginning of this conversation.
And I recognize this on a daily basis because I've had this epiphany multiple times in my life and yet still keep going back to the starting point. Anytime that you share anything, whether it's a personal struggle, right? Like, and here's the thing, you can follow whatever religious path, coaching path you want. There's not a single one that's going to tell you to keep all your shit to yourself and bottle it up. Right. Every single one of them is going to tell you, bring it to the light, talk about it with other people. Stuff can't hide in the darkness. Right. Whatever you want to find it, they're going to tell you to talk to other people about it.
Secrets keep you sick, Matt.
Yes. And I think that's because it's just a fundamental human truth is that our ability to lie to ourselves is so through the roof. And then if we just keep those secrets to ourselves and keep those stories to ourselves and keep our failures and successes to ourselves, none of those are reaching the full potential. And I think that's, if nothing else comes from this, finding somebody else to talk to about your struggles is probably the first thing that's going to pop those floodgates open.
Yeah.
Here's what I have to say about that. I have to say this. You said that we lie to ourselves. I was speaking to a gentleman who I actually did an Instagram live. He's a coach. He's a business coach. And he went down a really horrific path of alcohol abuse and drug abuse. In fact, he was addicted to two that were so difficult that he almost died when he was going through his detox of it, when he went and checked himself into rehab. And while he was in the rehab, he was still telling himself he didn't have a problem and that he was just going there because he needed a break from life. And this would be a little like vacation, to the point, but he believed, he's like, I know for a fact if somebody would have given me a lie detector test, I would have passed it, because I was being honest with myself, but I wasn't telling myself the real truth. And so when he said that to me, he said, the guy came up to me and said, wait, because he could tell that he was like not buying into that he needed help. And he goes, he said something like, you have a problem when you find yourself in jail or in an institution. And he said he remembered telling himself, well, yeah, I've never been in jail. I've never had to go to an institution. So I'm just here for a reprieve. And the guy could tell he was checked out, and he walked up to me and he goes, you're in an institution, right? And he said that very moment he went, holy crap, how long have I been being what I thought was honest with myself? Because I really believed it, but it wasn't at all the real truth. And we talked about this from a business perspective. It happens every day.
I think, and it's funny, I've been through this, Brian and I went through this last year. I think one of the cool things about growing in business with people is you also get to grow in life with them, especially if you're doing it kind of with the setup that Brian and I have, where it's really transparent. We've talked a lot about just being married to each other in addition, and I think it's pretty obvious, we travel together and the amount of stuff we do together.
Yeah, we've definitely been on brand for a while.
But we had, and here's the thing is, and I won't get too deep into it, but we had a point last summer where we had to deal with some stuff that from the personal side that had leaked into our business. And I very much thought I was the one who got to pick my path of solution, right? Like I thought I was the one who got to pick my path of reprieve. You talk about that addict, that made me think about that addict who was like, yeah, I'll go, but I'm just going for other people. And I'm not really here to do any work. I'm here to check a box. Right? Like we fall into that trap so much with ourselves, I think, with whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. It can just be anything. We fall in this trap of thinking that like, we're just here. We're just listening to the show today. We're just talking about this and we'll get all churched up for an hour. We'll go out there but it's going to be the same old thing where we tell her the same lies by the time we're in traffic at 5:30. And anytime that I can have a conversation like this that takes me back to my own truth, which is experiences I've already had experiencing this, I once again have to look in the mirror and be like, all right, dude, you've already learned this shit multiple times. Right? Yeah. It's just time for a reset. And I think most adults have been through that cycle before. And hopefully something like this, they just hear these little nuggets where there's so many things that you can do to protect that mindset. And honestly, the first thing is asking for help, right? And
not judging yourself. So, here's the other thing. The reason people keep secrets. By the way, people, and I say secrets because that was just, that's like, I think AAA said the secrets are going to keep you sick. But you think about this. If you don't admit to things that you've done or things that you didn't do well, like for an example, I wouldn't have to share with everybody that I had this like really imbalanced life for 10 years and I probably wasn't a present mom and I had a failing marriage and all these things. I wouldn't have to tell anybody that, right? I could just transform hopefully or change and then start to try to be better. But here's what doesn't happen. You don't actually fundamentally shift in your identity until you can let go of what that was and you can forgive yourself, you can give yourself grace and you can move on. And the only way you actually do that is by declaring to other people and being able to actually say it and not be feeling bad about it anymore. Like if you say, oh no, I've forgiven myself, but you can't tell anybody about it, you haven't forgiven yourself.
That's
you haven't. It's still holding you back, period. You still see yourself as the not present mom and the person that's going to have a failing marriage and the inability to have a work-life balance. If I can't move past my identity as that person and I can't forgive that person, there is zero way I can take that experience and now empower myself to be better and different. So the second I declared it out and I no longer kept it as a secret, it was very uncomfortable at first. In fact, it would bring tears. I'd get weird. And then now it's like, it is what it is. I actually feel really bad for that person, but I'm not her anymore. And if I didn't have that experience, by the way, I would not be 110% certain of the person I am today, which I'm really happy about. So instead of remembering the past as something that's so horrible, that keeps me feeling guilty and doesn't allow me to move forward in a better way, I am using that as remembering it as an opportunity that brought me to the place I am today. This is a quote you want to write down. What happened to you in the past is not nearly as important as how you remember it. Here's the reality of our brain. Psychologically speaking, our brain changes how we remember the past. It already does. So if it does that, why don't we choose how we remember the past? Because that is actually the problem that holds us back. It's not what actually happened. It's how we remember it and then what we allow it to continue to do to us or not do to us so that we can choose to either that's just part of our story and now we're just going to be the way we are because of it, or we know we're going to change because of it. And so it's the remembering of it. And so when people start here's why people don't move forward in business. I know we're getting off the path, but for an example.
No, actually, we're right on
kind of, this is the path.
They're stuck in business chaos, okay? They can't get past a certain amount. They're frustrated. They're just in this rut. The reason is that they will not admit the problems. They can't become self-aware enough because it's too personal. Their ego is being hurt a little bit. It's embarrassing. They think that they should be able to do it all and they can't. So they don't ask for help. They don't They don't share their secrets. They don't tell anybody, and they beat themselves up about it constantly. Therefore, they self-sabotage subconsciously because now they have a bad self-identity and they feel bad about themselves, and they have higher expectations that are not even true. I mean, the list goes on and none of it's good. The second you can just stop for a minute and go, I'm a human being. My business is not me. My failures and successes, quite frankly, are not me. They're just part of my journey. And I'm not going to be perfect. I don't have unrealistic expectations. I'm not going to expect something of myself that I would never expect of somebody else. And you know what? Maybe my story helps somebody else. And I just need to forgive myself so that I can actually just go, here's what it was. Here's what I learned from it. And here's where I can go. That's the only time someone actually is going to make some pivotal change. Otherwise, they're just going to do what Matt says, which is, I hear this for a little bit, awesome, but I'm not going to admit to it. I'm not going to talk about it. And then how do we expect that we ever change? Awareness,
it's church on
acceptance,
Sundays.
change. Yeah.
So it sounds like an imposter syndrome, right? So
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something, in fact, that's something I struggle with every single day.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, I have a video that I have not released because that with this ridiculous thumbnail for YouTube that talks about imposter syndrome.
This is like the most ironic thing. He has imposter syndrome and won't release this video about imposter syndrome because this is like, it's like when you pull two mirrors up against each other and they go on forever.
Yes. Right. and because of you, I feel that, I have to keep up with a certain identity and have to keep, I feel like I'm going out of business every day. Right. I feel like this is built on Brian and I we talk about this at the lake, right? Like it's on a
That's
house
all we
of
do
cards.
though, the work-life balance. We go to the lake to relax and talk about how we're going out of business.
Yeah. We're going out of business.
That sounds like fun.
We're like, we need to leave right now.
That before I know it, I'm going to get evicted or foreclosed on my house. Everything's gone. And I'm not materialistic at all. But it's more about that image and fighting through of what this is built. So it's almost, again, that self-sabotaging way and it's trying to fight past it.
Yeah.
Here's what this is. I love this conversation because here's the thing. If I asked you, Nick, like, well, what if that all happened?
Carrie, are you cool going for like a little while here? Because I'm like just really enjoying this conversation. I don't really want to shut it down at 45 minutes like we usually do. Is everybody good?
No,
with that?
I haven't. I have 20 minutes if you guys do.
Oh, shit. Okay, cool.
No, only 20. Well, come back. Have me back. I love hanging out with you guys.
That's fair. I just wanted to put it out there.
Yes. So here's the thing, Nick, though. What if that happens? This is the question. This is what I would encourage anybody who suffers with that, because I honestly ruined my life because I suffered with that. And so I was suffering with that, worrying about what would happen and going to work to make sure it didn't. And all the things that I didn't even think about happened, and they were worse than what I could even imagined. I mean, let's think about that for a minute. So I think that what people have to realize is that it's just your business isn't you. You're an awesome person. You are a human being that gets to play this role and have this career and build this business on this earth because you've been given talents that allow you to do so. And that in the meantime, you're helping a ton of people and you're supporting your family, and it's all awesome. And you are where you're supposed to be right now because you are. Like, hear me say this. Quit wishing you were someone else, wishing you were making more money, wishing something was more secure, wishing this and that because you're nervous, about where it is, or you have some unrealistic expectation. You are where you are as a human being in your personal life and in your business because you're supposed to be, because you are. It is what it is. Stop resisting reality. Stop wishing it were something different. It doesn't matter anyway because it is what it is. So what people have to understand is if they can just start to separate their own personal worth and who they are as a human being with their success or failures in business, it's when they start to become free to do what it is that they want to do in their life and business without this fear of losing it all. It's like, what if you lose it all? Maybe that was what was supposed to happen on your journey in this life. And if you built up the business today to the point where it is, you can build up another business. Maybe even better than this one because it gives you a different perspective and opportunity and who knows what. So I think what you should actually do is force yourself to think about, well, what would actually happen if everything I keep worrying about happens does? and then figure out how can you make sure that you're okay if that does happen, and you're okay no matter what. And then I promise you'll stop thinking about it, because you're just going to go, okay. Yeah. So buckle up. If it happens, it happens. And I'm up for the challenge, because guess what? I will grow more in this life, and I will overcome things because that happened. But that doesn't mean anything. I'm not less than because of it. Because how many people have failed? I mean, we hear this logically. I get it. We get that you're supposed to fail, and you only, you can only, take so many shots. You're going to miss a certain amount. Right. I'm like, okay, I can keep talking about all of these things. That's a logical thing. I'm talking about how we actually feel, which is really derived from what we think. So if we can control what we think, we will feel differently, we'll act differently, and we'll actually finally get some peace. And that's, I guess, the bigger question is, how can you find peace in your life in being an entrepreneur? Because I think being an entrepreneur creates challenges with some inner peace, because a lot of us feel just like I did, and I still do sometimes. I'm not perfect. And like Nick does, and Brian and everybody, which is, like, I feel like the shoe's going to drop all the time. And I'm excited that we're having success, but the more success makes me go, how do I maintain this? And it's even scarier. But why do we have to maintain it forever? Why is that expectation even there? Why do we think we even have control over that in the first place? If we just show up every day being the best version of ourselves and doing the best that we can, we really don't have control over the outcome anyway. Newsflash. You feel like we do, but we don't. So let's just stop pretending as if we do, and then worrying about it because really we know we don't. Instead, just embracing it and going, if it happens, I'm still okay. That I know, and I'll still make it happen. And you will.
It's funny because even I'm sitting here writing down notes, and we're having this incredible conversation. She's talking about, like, so what happens if your business falls apart? You just start another one. I'm having that addict moment where I'm like, yeah, I'll show up to rehab, and then freak out, right? Like, because I'm hearing you say that, and I know it's true because I know your background, I know who you're affiliated with, and I know you've seen this happen more times than I would ever even imagine. I'm also like, you don't understand my situation. Yeah. I'm still having that moment, even midstream. Yeah. It's so ridiculous.
Do you know how resilient as a human being we are? Like, do you not? I mean, this is the thing I had to learn. Human beings were made for this crap. Yes. Like we are the most resilient. We just are. We will figure it out. And you will because you've done it before.
So good.
Here's like something I want to come back to. I know that Nick was about to jump in, but I've been dying to say this for a while now. There's so much good stuff we've been talking about. I haven't been able to come back to it. It feels like when we talk about the work-life balance thing, a lot of what we've been talking about still focuses on is still focused on the person type thing. And there's a part of me that has always felt like the work-life balance is so heavy on how the work is going and very little on how the life is going, meaning like it's really easy to say I have a bad work-life balance when the business itself is still growing. It's hard. You're in the trenches. You're doing all the hard stuff. Kevin, by the way, they are getting bigger by the moment. It's ridiculous. When you're in the trenches, you're doing all that stuff. It's hard because the business should always be a little bit harder than your life, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like life is just like we're in a video game. We're just in life. We're enjoying ourselves. You know what I mean? So the business organically will always be probably a little bit more challenging than your everyday life if you're, you know what I mean? And so I think there's something to be said for the idea that if you have a really what you feel is an off-kilter work-life balance, I would also challenge you to examine what you're doing in your personal life with your personal time. Meaning we all have a limited amount of life to live every day, 24 hours, right? And some of that's going to be dedicated to business, work, whatever. And some of it's going to be dedicated to this. Where I feel people are getting a little bit off kilter is they kill themselves at work every day. They're exhausted when they come home. And then what do? They probably eat shitty food. They probably watch Netflix. They probably go to sleep. And they talk about their work-life balance. And I get that. Look, we all have a limited amount of time. But when we talk about the things we want to do in our business, I would also challenge you to examine what are the things that you want to, like your husband just finished his first Ironman. That's amazing, right? I bet that was so incredibly fulfilling in so many different ways, right? Yeah. What is it that you're not doing in your life that you feel like you don't have a work-life balance? Well, are you running that marathon you want to run? Are you learning guitar? Are you playing piano? Are you reading the books you want to read? Are you becoming a graphic designer on this? Like, what are the things that you would love to do with your life, and you feel like work is overcoming you in a way that you can't spend your lifetime the way that you want to spend it, and shouldn't as much focus be on spending your life part of your life. It's a weird thing to say. Focused on the things that fulfill you and fill your cup. I feel like we give a lot of that lifetime away because we're just burnt out from the work side.
Well, that's right. So here's the thing. There are no business problems. There's only personal problems showing up in business. And you should go to business to grow yourself personally. So this should be the balance that we're talking about. Right. Stop thinking about time, because there is no exact time balance. That's just not going to happen. And by the way, we live by a myth I did for 10 years, which is why I went down a vicious cycle of constantly feeling guilty about not being a good mom or having good work-life balance. By the way, that negative self-talk and that thought pattern as I was beginning my entrepreneurship journey actually led me to want to go to work more. You know why? Because I felt good about myself at work. I didn't feel good about myself.
Yeah, you feel like you're getting shit done. Yeah.
So where do you go? You go where you feel you're successful, where you are achieving, where you feel good about yourself. You don't necessarily put yourself in a position where you feel crappy. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So what I mean by integration is you go to work to also grow yourself. You spend every day doing things that fill all your buckets, personally and professionally, even if it's just for small periods of time, because the time doesn't matter. It's the purposeful effort and the present moments that matter, not the actual length of time. Mm-hmm. If somebody would have told me when I was really trying to be a good mom and trying to juggle all the things and learn the career and build this business, that I didn't need to spend 8 hours a day with my kids to be a successful or a good mom, that would have changed my life. Yeah. I had that perspective because my mom stayed home full time, and I had kind of an upbringing that was important. So I chose to be a working mom, right? And I did, because that's my behavior, and I wasn't a good stay-at-home mom. I just knew I wasn't a happy, fulfilled person, and I wouldn't be a good mom. So I was trying to figure out how to figure this out. And the long and the short of it was, I had this myth. I was living by not a truth that was, you need to be physically present with your kids all the time in order to be a good mom. So What I tried to do instead was, I was with them all the time, but I wasn't with them. I was working, I was on the phone, I was thinking about things, but I was there. And so that was the honesty I was living by. That wasn't the real truth. Like when we said, you're being honest with yourself, but you're not telling yourself the real truth. I did believe, honestly, that if I was there, I was a good mom. But what was not happening is I could sense subconsciously that there wasn't that connection. And I knew I wasn't being the right type of mom, but I didn't know what to do. And so when I could sense that, then I was feeling guilty, and then I had shame, and then I was all this stuff. And so then that pushed me further away, because I have all of these like limiting thoughts about myself and negative self-talk that then spirals into an identity. By the way, the identity is just simply what you believe or see about yourself at any given time, which then the byproduct of that is your personality. So then you start changing the way you act. And then when you change the way you act, you get a different result. So you perpetuate what you believe about yourself. And so I actually believed I was a workaholic and I wasn't a good mom. And so I acted that way. And so then I perpetuated more of the same, but it wasn't real. True. It was just a story until I figured that out. And so what I would tell you is, here's what you need to know about work-life integration. It's not about the hours you spend. It's about the moments that you spend. So if I could have just went and had some face-to-face time with my kids every single day, uninterrupted, truly present, like they could feel me and they could see me, and it was purposeful and intentional, and I taught them some good lessons and I bonded with them, that I would have felt fulfilled in that relationship. I wouldn't have felt as guilty. They would have felt fulfilled, and I would have sensed that from them. And I wouldn't have felt so stressed out about having to be there 24/7. When I was at work, if I would have done that with my clients, I would have had better results. I probably would have seen more opportunities that I didn't even see. And when I was at home, I wouldn't have felt like I needed to be at work. And when I was at work, I wouldn't have felt like I was supposed to be at home. I would have had some clear boundaries, and I would have had more intention and presence. And that would have been the same thing with, a walk around the block once a week could have, been a big deal for a marriage. But instead, because I had this idea that it had to be so complex and so much time and whatever, that it all felt like it was impossible. Therefore, I didn't do any of it. And therefore, it was just living by the wrong rules, that I somehow believed or made up in my own mind. So the balance and integration should be, when you go to work every day, use it to grow yourself personally, spiritually, communication-wise, relationally, to get in the present moments, to be real focused and intentional, like have that great time management, to be really, to lead yourself well. And use those challenges in business to grow yourself, because when you grow yourself, it's going to leak into the personal side too. It's going to leak into the relationships that you have personally. It's going to leak into the time management personally, and leak into the spiritual side personally, and the present moments personally. When you are at home or with your children, get present. It doesn't matter how much time. Use the time you have very, very purposefully and wisely, and make sure that you have a connection. Make sure that it matters, and do that with your significant other, and stop living by some rules that you think should be 50-50 balance and that it needs to be a certain amount of time, because that really doesn't matter. And so I think you can live every day and you can fill the buckets, all the buckets, and all the roles that you play intentionally and purposefully, and you can do a good job of it. You can do it in the 24 hours. You're just thinking about it wrong, having a wrong expectation, putting too much pressure on yourself. And then what you're doing instead is dragging your kids along while you're on appointments because you feel better that they're with you, but you're still not present. And then it's stressing you out because it's chaotic. And then you didn't get everything done at work because you were letting all these other things come in. So then it has to leak over into personal. It's that you're not making the choices to prioritize and to just get really focused and intentional to get the stuff done that you need to get done. Because if you did that
one stings.
Cuts real deep.
you have all the time you need.
That's pretty much my life right there, folks.
I know. I lived it for 10 years, Kelderman. This is not, I'm speaking from experience here. Please
I know.
So it sounds like we need to do round 2 of a therapy session.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I did hear that. Somebody said he feels like.
Yeah, Foster definitely jumped in with that.
So
Yeah,
round 2.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, no. We've got a lot of issues to work through here. I'm going to tell you right now, like I wanted to resist. Matt's over here and I'm watching him. He's been through this before. He's a professional. I'm trying to mimic his way. But inside I'm like, nope. I'm definitely fighting that. Yeah. Matt's like, all right, I'm just gonna just roll with it. Calm.
I got a lot of hours of therapy under my belt too, so
I'm a little
more receptive to the words.
I love it. So Cari, I know we're coming up against our hard stop with you.
Yeah.
Where can people reach out to you, find you? Because I mean, they're saying they love it. So where can they find you and connect with you?
Cool. So you can always find me on any social media. Just go ahead and look up Cari Briner. There is a hyphenated name in there. It's Heibel, but if you say Cari Briner, you're going to find me everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, DM me, of course. You can also just email me, which is Cari, C-A-R-I.
Just sitting back there in the DJ booth like, oh, fuck, I spell Heibel.
We're not
see him typing stuff.
I know.
Cari
at businessandlifecoaching.com. And it is all spelled out, business and life coaching, which is what we've been talking about all day. So it should be easy to remember. .com, and that's our website too, businessandlifecoaching.com. So you can set up a free call.
Cari at businessandlifecoaching.com.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a shorter name.
Right. No, but it's as clear as it can be.
We can't count anybody for length of names. This podcast name is freaking ridiculous.
Actually, you guys, I was thinking about doing Cari Heibel-Briner at Business and Life Coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good Lord.
Yes. CHB. Well, Cari, thank you so much, guys. I know that you're loving this, so share this out, tag someone in it. We'll have round 2 on. If you have not gone to the only real estate group worth being a part of, go do that now. Request access. Maybe we'll have Cari in there and start sharing a little bit of some nuggets, as well as go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Please. What they actually say in the Podcasting 101, you don't say please, you just tell them what to do.
Oh, you just bring that energy.
Yeah, you just tell them, because if not,
when
we say please, it's like if you kind of do it, we're just asking, but we're telling you to go leave us a 5-star review right now. And our sponsor, Mortgage Mike, mortgagemikeoftexas.com. If you're a Texas real estate agent, or if you are a real estate agent that has clients relocating to Texas, DFW area, bet you do, because they're all coming here, right? So connect with mortgagemikeoftexas.com. Get your clients pre-approved. He's got some cool things he's in the works with, some closing guarantees. He's going to be pissed that I said that, because it's not out there yet. But
he'll buy your house if they don't close on it.
No, but let's
and then he'll lease it to you.
Yes. So mortgagemikeoftexas.com. Michael DeBacker, Elderman.
Cari, thank you so much for coming on today. It's always awesome for me personally to reconnect with you, but this was juicy, and I think everybody got a lot from it. So thank you very much.
I am super excited, and hopefully I'll be back with you guys. Thanks for everything. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, Jesse, get us out, baby. Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one, and then go to that one. Thanks.